Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 316, Fear of Change. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm also lovingly known as RCA, and we welcome you to the show today. And for those of us in the U.S., I hope you had a great and safe 4th of July. I always love celebrating the 4th, and I love celebrating freedom. Of course, you know me, I always go spiritual on it. But anyway, welcome. We're glad you're here. I can't believe it's already July 8th. I'm here today with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. So happy to be here with you today. Loving summer. Summer is one of my favorite times of year. July is great. Of course, I'm wearing I don't know if you can see if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing my shark shirt because, you know, July 4th is the time of Jaws.
I forgot that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I forgot that. Well, plus where you live, Sean, just on the water almost,
you know,
in Claremont, yeah. It is gorgeous up there. I've loved my time with you up there, just everywhere you drive around and everything. It's a really beautiful town. And hey, if anybody ever needs a promo for Claremont, I will do it. I will happily go on and record something for living in Claremont because I know that's another page that I think you might manage because I see you comment and I was like, I bet that's another page, Sean. But it's so beautiful up there. And here in Florida, it is, you know, we're in the dog days of summer. I mean, you've got to really like heat to be in Florida in the summer.
That is the thing about Claremont, though. I don't know if it's the hills or what it is, but or the lakes, the water.
Right, it does seem a little cooler there.
Yeah, It's a little cooler, and there seems to always be at least a little bit of a breeze. You know, even on those days when it's pretty stagnant everywhere else. But yeah, I love it out here. Just absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, the summertime, the lakes are bustling. You know, there's tons of people out on the water. People are having picnics. And
I always find people to be, you know, especially in that area, just kind of kind and generous. And because a lot of people are on vacation, you know, those little cottages up there, you know, people are kind of in good moods because they're like, hey, I'm on vacation, you know.
Right. It's summertime.
It's summer.
Sweet summertime.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you may not know this about me, but I do like thrift stores. My whole family is thrift store nuts. I'm kind of the least of it, but I had to check out the thrift stores in Claremont too.
There's some good ones.
There's some good ones, and they do a lot of good work. The one I'm trying to remember, the one I went to, it was really close to your house, but really, really good one with really quality stuff. And so happy to donate and happy to do my part to support. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like to frequent them too. And actually we went to this festival over the weekend, and there was this kid there who's like young kid, 20-something-year-old kid who's starting his own tie-dye business. But his whole thing is that all of the clothes are thrifted. They're all from thrift stores.
Why not?
He buys them and then does his tie-dye thing with them, which is cool. I bought a pair of shorts, which are awesome. And then that's what he does. He started that in an ice cream business as a young 20-something-year-old kid.
Awesome.
You know?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like, good for you.
Well, anytime you say tie-dye, I got to do a shout out to my friend Sherry Kim, who's a big listener and supporter of the show. She only wears tie-dye. So love you. Anyway,
I know, it's surprising. I know this isn't what we're here to talk about, but yeah, I've never had anything tie-dye. When you
think
I would. Yeah, it's definitely time.
So. It's fun. It's fun. Yes.
Speaking of tie-dye, your shirt is kind of almost.
It's almost.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I used to work at a school, and it was a school that was all dyslexic and ADD kids, and our school shirt was tie-dye. And the kids
That's cool.
thought of it, and it was called Hamlin Robinson School. And we loved it because we were all different. We felt like it just kind of described the school. We're a cool school, we're a hip school, and where everybody's welcome. Let's make a tie-dye, you know. So awesome. That was our school shirt. Yeah, we loved it. The principal on down to the kids wore that shirt, and we all loved it. It was pretty fun. Tie-dye just makes you happy to look at it. It
really does. Yeah, just bright and colorful of it. Anyway, friends, with all that said,
with all that, we are going to do a shout out today.
Right. Yeah. This is, of course, episode 316. It's July 8th. And today we are just wanting to give a big shout out again to our Soulworks community as it continues to grow. If you have not had a chance to join us over there yet, it is simply my.soulworkscommunity.com. And again, that link will be in the show notes for you to come on over there and join us. We talked a little bit about it last week, too. We talked also about it being sort of people from all faith backgrounds, which is one of the things I actually really love about it. And because of the conversations that we're able to have, and we can see that, we're all kind of saying the same thing, essentially. I mean,
exactly. And what's cool about the community is, not dealing with bots and a bunch of negativity. To me, that's such a plus of it. And just seeing people support each other, and it's all right there, and you're going to get affirmations. I mean, it's amazing how much you get on the free level. There is a level that you can pay for the talks and everything else, but don't worry about it. If you don't want to do the paid level, the free level's there, and a free level is there, and we're going to always want people on every level. So it doesn't matter. We're happy to have you at whatever level you want to be a part of it. And if you just want to check it out, that's fine. You can check it out. You can sign up. If you don't like it, you can sign out. It's no big deal, but we welcome you to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you get all of the engagement on the free level. I mean, that's the thing. The main space, the main room, is all of us, regardless of how you signed up. So.
Oh, yes. And speaking of that, I wanted to go live today, but I was scared. I didn't know how to do it. So I was like, I better ask John. I better double check that I don't do something real dumb. But,
no, definitely.
But our shout out today is for Clifton Park, New York. Is that right, Sean?
That is correct. Clifton Park, New York. Yep.
So it's a suburb, right?
Yes, looks like. Yep.
So it's a
upstate
suburb.
New York.
Upstate New York. Yeah, I was surprised how far north this was. I actually wasn't familiar with Clifton Park. It's evidently in Saratoga County. So I'm going to be lifting you guys up this weekend. I love to do this when I do a shout out. And again, if you are listening and you hear this and you're in Clifton Park, send us a picture. Let us know who you are. I just love connecting in real time with my audience. And it's the one thing that's hard for me about a podcast. I love to know my people. And it's like, I just like names and areas, I don't see real people. So anytime you want to touch in with us, please do. But I'll be lifting you up, and I'm sure you're glad to be in upstate New York rather than Orlando in this time of year. Yeah. Yep.
And so, friends, there are several ways. I'm sorry, but there are several ways that you can do that. So we want to just call your attention again to the very, very top of the show notes section, whatever platform you're listening on. You will see a thing that says send a text message. And if you're listening on your mobile device, you click that. It opens up your regular text messages, and you're just going to be able to type in there. Make sure you let us know where you're listening from, how we can get back in touch with you. But that's probably one of the quickest and easiest ways from listening to the show that you can get back, that you can give us feedback or talk back to us that way. But of course, through the website, through Facebook, through Instagram, YouTube, all of those things. So yeah, we love hearing back from you. We love doing these shout outs. If you want to shout out, reach out to us and let us know.
Yeah, basically we make it super easy for you to connect with us. Also realizing you're busy. If it doesn't work for you, it's not a problem. But just know our desire is to support you, to help you, to lift you up. And I just love feeling connected to the people, that I am supporting. So happy to have you along the journey in Clifton Park, New York, most definitely, and honored to share the journey with you. So today, I can't believe where we are in the month. Sean, give us the date and the title one more time.
Absolutely. Welcome once again, friends, to episode 316 of Experience of the Soul podcast. This is Fear of Change.
Fear of change. Well, we're laughing about this because I talk about change so much, and you would think with as much as I talk about it, we'd all have it down by now. But, we're human, and there does seem to be a fear of change. There's a fear of change, I think, emotionally, sometimes physically. I know, many of our listeners have told me this year in particular that they have been on a physical health journey along with me. I know Sean has been in that physical health journey as well. And it's a little bit of a risk to start something new, isn't it? So I wanted to just speak to it because it's literally a part of being human. I also went out and listened to a couple of what I feel are authorities on change. And it's interesting. I listened to one from the business world, Simon Senek, who basically says he doesn't think people really fear change in the workplace. What they fear is sudden change because they're afraid they can't do it, or they're afraid, that they're going to seem, what's the word? That they're going to lose credibility, and be off their game because they don't know how to make next steps. And what I would say about that is yes, and even more, people do not want to be vulnerable, and to change, to open up, to move a new direction, to grow does take a great deal of courage. It's going to require vulnerability. It's going to require not knowing. Part of my physical health journey has been being willing to not know, being willing to lose. I said to a friend one time, a friend recently asked me, what is being in jujitsu like? I said, well, it's like being willing to lose every time you go work out. and she goes, wait, what? And I said, well, she said, that doesn't sound fun. I said, well, you'd think not. But the truth is, every time you lose, you learn something. And there's just a lot to know. And I said, if you have a big ego, you're never going to be able to do jujitsu. You have to be willing to lose and learn from that mistake, and also honor the other person for knowing more. So I've been in a real time of vulnerability and change, both physically, and I would say even mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that I'm in a real time of growth myself. And change is a part of the curriculum. I want us to make sure we know, if we want to grow, prosper, or evolve, if we want our life to move forward in any way, change is a part of the curriculum. And even fear is a part of the curriculum. The thing is, you just can't focus on the fear. You have to move past the fear. And so, I'm not going to sound like a slogan and say, just do it. But what I am going to say is there is a time to face the fear and move forward. There is. And the way we face that fear is through, again, a great deal of courage, a willingness to be vulnerable. And sometimes it's also getting help and support on that journey to move forward, right? To make that shift forward. So there's a phrase I do have, though, that I love, especially if I'm bumping up against something that I don't want to change. Sometimes I have to say to myself, change. I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Change. I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And I actually think, friends, that I learned that from Youth of Unity years ago. I wasn't a kid in Unity, but I think I was at a retreat or something, and I heard somebody say that, and I said, oh, that is going to be a key in my life and in my ministry, because to move forward, we have to change. And it's like, what's the one constant in life? Change. And what do we fear? Change. Remember, change is a part of the curriculum. So I want you to think about, is there an area of your life that is needing a shift? And as I'm even saying this, I can hear somebody's mind go, oh no, I can't believe I have to look at this. Well, the good news is to really move forward, to really even know that change is involved. I'm saying courage. I'm saying vulnerability is required. Yes, that's true. I'm even going to use the word compassion. And I thought it was interesting. I do follow Simon Senek and his work on LinkedIn as well, because his real focus is positivity. And he talks about moving through change, with people in the workplace, that compassion is key. And I think on the spiritual journey, self-compassion and compassion for others is key, because change does take a great deal of courage. And, we don't all do it well and successfully the first time we try. So I just wanted to speak to this today because we're talking so much on the show, and then on the other network, Soulworks, the program we were just talking about, so much about growth and about connection and compassion and contribution. There's so much we've been talking about, and change is required for us to move forward. Change is required to move forward. So we want to acknowledge the fact that to grow, prosper, or evolve, we're going to have to change where we currently are. I think I've maybe heard this said, first of all, in recovery rooms, it's like, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. In other words, if you don't change your thinking, if you don't change your attitudes and behaviors, you can't move into something new because you're connected to the old. And sorry, I get so excited about this. Sometimes I have to take a breath. I'm going to take a sip of coffee.
You're good. And I love it. Your grow, prosper, and evolve mug.
Yes. Right. Shameless advertising. Yeah. I don't even be happy to send you one of these if you want it for no charge. But what I notice happens when people fear change is that they start digging in to a certain way of thinking and believing. I've seen this politically in the last few years, like I've never seen it before, that the idea of even an openness to a new idea is just completely shut down. And I've just used this as an example because it's what we do to ourselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We say, I've always done it. This is how it's always going to be. And what we don't realize is what we're really doing when we resist change, and I'll really say resist growth, is that we start putting up walls, we self-sabotage, we, engage in behaviors that make us check out. We start spending time binging TV shows and everything else, when in fact we're just being asked to change, because to change means we're going to grow, and to grow means something's going to get better. Right. And so this is why I call it self-sabotage, is because fear of change is normal to a degree, especially if there's a sudden change. But what I've learned is if we don't take the smaller changes with ease and grace, pretty soon a big change comes and we're not ready for it. So it's like you will be, as Simon Senek said, off your game. You will lose credibility in your life and in your world because you just haven't learned to handle change. So I want you to think about, are you being called to move forward in a different way? Are you being called to change and grow in your life? And it could be in any area. Sometimes the change we're being asked for is simply in an attitude. It might be the change is being called for is simply how I'm thinking about something. It was pretty funny as I watched the Simon Senek video. It was a short video. It was like, I don't know, just 2 or 3 minutes long, where he was being interviewed. It was just like a clip. I think it was even called Fear of Change, which I had the title before I even saw that. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. He used a word in there that my mom used with me growing up, and the word was obstreperous. And recently I was talking to a sister about, we were reminiscing about our mom, because my mom passed. It was a little over 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. And when she made her passing, we of course told stories. And anyway, so the other day, my sister and I were reminiscing, and I said, don't you remember when Mom would say, "Oh, quit being obstreperous"? And my sister said, I never heard her say that. And I said, that's because you're not obstreperous. So it's a weird word. I've never heard anybody use it in a public forum. And Simon Senek said it in his YouTube video, which obstreperous, do you know what that means, Sean? It's basically being obstinate, And
that's so funny, because I was just looking it up right when you asked me.
Oh, right. You're like, crap, what does that mean? Ah! Yeah.
Click, 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 click. Oh, let's see.
Well, my mom... go ahead.
No, go ahead. How do you spell how do you spell it?
I think it's OBSTREPEROUS. Eperous, obstreperous.
I love how you did it like you're in a spelling bee. That was perfect. So
well, I was trying to see it in my mind. It's such
yeah,
a
no,
long
totally.
word.
No, yeah.
It's kind of like spelling supercalifragilistic. I can do it, but it takes a minute. Yeah.
So it says, noisy and difficult to control.
Yeah. Can you imagine somebody saying to me, "Don't be obstreperous"? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. And this is an aside, but my mom, the way she grew up, her dad, had spoken, my grandfather, her dad had spoken 7 languages and was fluent in 5. He'd been a missionary in Brazil, traveled all over the world. And he made the kids read a word every day out of the dictionary to learn a new word. So my mom's vocabulary for basically just high school education was unbelievable. And sometimes I'd have to look up when I was in trouble when she'd say something like obstreperous. So anyway, that's an aside, but that's what we do. We get obstinate. Yeah. It's like you don't really have to resist and dig in every time there's a change. And, depending on the environment you grow up in, sometimes, change happens so often that you learn to control your own life, your own world. Like, for instance, if you were neglected as a child, you learn, well, I just have to make it on my own, and I'm going to control my life and my environment and what I do, and et cetera, et cetera. So when that's been your coping strategy and change comes along in life, you go, we're not doing this. I just don't do that. Well, good luck with that in the real world, because in any work situation, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to be forced to change and grow. And as a matter of fact, one of the workshops I do in the corporate setting is riding the wave of change, because so much change happens. And they're now what are considered in the business world, which I think is so interesting, change experts. Like, they have made their living helping people, work through change because of the resistance to it. What I try to remember is change is the language of the soul. I'm going to say that again. Change is the language of the soul. So what does this mean? If change is afoot, it means time to grow. Yeah. If change is afoot, it means time to grow. And as a soul, you're not meant to be put here to work, pay taxes, and die. You are here as a soul to grow. When I said earlier, change is a part of the curriculum, I meant that we can only stay at a certain level for so long before we desire to grow. And I talked about this, I don't know, maybe a month ago, when I was saying that, as we develop as children, we grow physically, we grow mentally, we learn new things. So why would we not also grow spiritually, right? That's my focus, but in truth, it involves all of these things. Part of my change and growth for myself, I think I mentioned maybe last episode about that I mentioned last episode about taking courses with the CC Institute. And I took courses on how to translate dreams. I've taken courses on how to be a archetypal pattern analyst. I've taken courses on understanding archetypes and ethics and all things like that. Now, I have a degree, a Bachelor of Arts degree in music performance. I am licensed and ordained as a Unity minister. I've already been to college for 7 years, and then I'm still learning and growing. Well, what I've learned is that if I'm not learning and growing, I start to get stagnant. And if I'm stagnant, I'm unhappy, I am frustrated, I am irritated, because I'm not bringing new information in. I'm not learning more about myself. I'm not being vulnerable. I'm not being questioned. I'm not being kind of pushed into new arenas of thinking. And that's not good. And as we see in our culture today, what I'm seeing is people are getting so dug into their positions. And I don't know anybody that looks out on the world right now and says, oh, we're all so happy being dug into our positions. No. That curiosity has gone out the window, and all we're doing is raging against another opinion and digging in more to our own. We're not happier. We're angrier. We're sadder. We're more depressed. The suicide rate is off the chart right now. So think about that. It is the resistance to change. It is not knowing who we are as souls, and it is not being willing to grow and evolve. So, friends, we must learn how to navigate change on our journey that we call life. Ultimately, as you move forward on your spiritual journey, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago as well, that as you move forward on your spiritual journey, it starts to impact every area of your life. Like we were talking about, Sean and I were both talking about our physical journey and how it came out of our soul work. I even mentioned, my next steps in my physical program are not about winning, but it's about growing in this way. And I know to compete is going to help me grow, even though I'm scared to death to do it. I know it's mine to do. So I've got to move forward and take the steps to figure out what's next. As a matter of fact, I'll share a story with you where I was just able to grow, and I definitely had fear walking into it. But I can't remember if I shared on the show. I shared it at church, and I shared it with a class because I had asked for prayer, that I was testing for my blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And so I did get my blue belt, and it was amazing. And it was very hard, the test and everything, but I had practiced, and I had watched videos, and I had done, 4 and 5 workouts a week for months. And, I was ready for the test. But I was still somewhat fearful because I'd never done it before. So it was like not so fearful I would not show up for it, but it was like I had to face my fear. And what was so interesting is that part of facing the fear was that I could not do it on the day when everybody else did it. So it was just me with another woman in the class who's more advanced than me, and the professor who I had studied privately with, and who teaches so many of the classes. I mean, he teaches 3/4 of the classes at the gym, and is an incredible black belt, by several degrees. So I knew there was going to be nothing he missed because it was all going to be focused on me. So long story short, I did get the blue belt. Well, shortly after getting the blue belt, I showed up for his class, a fundamentals class. And he said to me, "What are you doing down here?" And I said, kind of caught me off guard. And I said, I was coming to class. He goes, "What color is your belt?" And I said, "It's blue." And he said, "Yes, you are to go upstairs to advanced. You can't stay down here. You've got a competition to plan for." And, it pushed me a little bit. And I said, you know what? He's right. So I went upstairs, and I was already a little nervous. And luckily I had a great friend to grapple with and work out with. She's very supportive and also advanced of me, and quite a bit younger, probably by at least 15 years, maybe 20. But she's very fit and very cool and helped me out. Well, what I'm leading up to is at the end of that session of advanced, even though I hadn't been up there but a couple other times, we'd never done this. We usually grapple at the end. And she looked at me and said, "Okay, we're going to do something." I said, "Do I need to be scared?" And she said, "You'll do okay, but this is hard." And the other professor who was up there said, "Okay, we're going to do something called Shark Tank." And I don't know about you, but Shark Tank doesn't sound fun. It sounds very intimidating. And what we did was there was 5 black belts out on the mat, and then we would all stand in a line. And when somebody would say next, whoever was next in line had to go fight a black belt. So obviously a black belt was way advanced to me, or a purple belt as well. So I was in a position where, I had to go up against somebody very difficult. And I was a little nervous going in because I could tell he was a little on the rougher side. So, I did grapple with him, and he was on the rougher side. And, as I got done with that, he said to me, "Oh, sorry, I went a little hard." And I said, "You don't have anything to be sorry for." And I realized right then I had finally found a little more power in myself in jiu-jitsu. rather than thinking of myself as 55 and older. I thought of myself as an equal and as somebody that deserved to be there. So even though I had feared the situation, going through the experience on the other side, I was like, I am stronger and I can do this. And that's what facing fear does for us. Now, it might be easier sometimes on a physical level than it is emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because on a physical level, I could see, immediately a benefit. And sometimes mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it takes a little bit to see the benefit, but the result is the same. That as we are willing to go into change, as we are willing to try something new, that we know change is a part of the curriculum, that we know change is a language of the soul, and that we move forward with great courage, with vulnerability. And even though we feel the fear, we don't give the fear all of our energy. We know that fear is an indicator that it is time to grow and change and move into something new. Now, there are times, I just want to put a caveat in here. There are times where, fear is a normal thing and fear could mean to stop. So part of your discernment is knowing, is this really a divinely guided change? Or am I fearing this for a good reason? So there is a discernment piece. I'm not saying just because change is afoot, you have to jump in with both feet. It may need to be navigated. It may need to be managed. You may need support to walk through that. And if you aren't sure, that's when you reach out for support, maybe from a therapist or from me as a spiritual guide or supporter on the journey. You might need that. So this journey we call life does require a great deal of courage, a great deal of vulnerability, and definitely a willingness to face what is ours to face. And we talked about last week about the truth will set you free. So this is very much a part of navigating change and moving forward. And I know you can do it, friends. I know that if you're listening to the show that you want to grow, prosper, and evolve. I know that you want to move forward on life's journey, that you're not the type that's so dug into your opinions and beliefs that you're not willing to at least listen to a new idea or grow spiritually. We don't want to put up walls. We don't want to self-sabotage. We don't want to dig in. We want to release that and remember that change is here to make us better. Change is here to cause growth and forward movement. And that, in fact, change is positive and is the language of the soul. If change is afoot, it means time to grow. And I did put a funny little link. It was actually from a kids channel on YouTube about, change could actually be good. It's really kind of funny. Change can make you better. So I thought it would be a little funny thing if you decided to listen to it. I thought you might enjoy that. But as always, friends, we're wishing you the highest and best. We are honored that you've joined us, and please do check out the show notes, check out a couple of those links, see if they support you at all. And remember that we're always lifting you up again for all good in your life. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and blessings on the journey, dear friends.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2024 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore. A production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated. Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.